All right. So we are back in the fray. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about the economics of AI. Let's start with just very, very brief intros. Sean, why don't you start?
I'm Shannon, Sahara AI's co-founder and CEO. Great to have everyone here.
Just give a sentence for what Sahara is.
We're building a sort of copyright system with the blockchain technologies to power a new revenue sharing mechanisms among the AI assets.
Cool. Ethan?
So I'm Ethan, co-founder of MyShell. So MyShell, we are building the AI creator platform and also content distribution and also the open economics around creator economy.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm one of the founders of Near. Near is a layer 1 blockchain, and earlier this year we started an Near Foundation native effort called Near AI to do all the things artificial intelligence. That includes empowering ecosystem projects, having internal efforts towards ensuring that there is a user-owned AI accessible to everyone in the years to come. Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot today about the importance of decentralized AI. I think most people's intuitions about this mostly comes from open source AI. And I want to kind of narrow in on that distinction. What exactly is the difference between decentralized AI and open source AI? Sean, why don't you take that?
I think there's a lot of nuances and misunderstanding about the term decentralized AI itself already. Like, I mean, does decentralized AI meaning decentralize the physical parts of the AI, which we're talking about data centers, we're talking about the talents of the model developers, we're talking about where to collect data and store data. There's a question about that. And I will be talking more about like the governance of AI. How do we decentralize them? And then I think the open source AI part is kind of tricky because I personally think open source AI has the problem of there's no sustainable business model and revenue model for it. So when we talk about open source AI, I personally put on researchers' head, I will more thinking about how would it help advance the science community, allow different people to build on top of that to create a next better version of the open source model. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the developers of the open source models will have a very good business, right?
Yeah, I think open source is more about open sourcing the code, the data set, and many more. It's about another developer or the builder can iterate on top of others' work. And I think distributed AI is more about the collaboration between different parties. It can either be the model training phase or the application building phase. Because nowadays, an AI application is not just a large language model and writing prompts. It's getting more complicated. You might the creator might need to use multiple APIs, even with API keys, and also using 3 generative models, one for image, one for text, maybe one for voices. So how those different kind of builders collaborated, I think it's more about the decentralized AI.
We also like the term user-owned AI, which emphasizes more the ultimate goal of decentralized AI. And it's not only about the models, right? So models could be open source. It is disputed how open source models are because their source is not actually open, only the weights are open. There's another term called open weight models. But decentralized AI is also about deployment of those models, data handling for those models, agent orchestration, fine-tuning of the models, data monetization, etc. So it's a way more broad term.
So sharpen that intuition for me. What does it mean to own a model? How do I know that I don't own a model?
I don't know if you can own a model.
Well, that's what user-owned AI means, no?
User-owned AI means that users own, like a very good example of something that would be user-owned AI is any deployment of AI where users are fully in control of the data, right? So today, even if you, consider Llama 405B, it is an open source model. Majority of users cannot deploy it themselves. They neither have expertise nor resources, so it is deployed elsewhere, right? Fireworks together, or like Hyperbolic, users still use it through those services. Data is not theirs, right? So in this sense, it is an open source AI. It is not user-owned. Data is going elsewhere, can be used against the user, right? At the same time, if there's a fully closed model, but deployed in such a way that users are certain that the data is not leaving them, right? And it could be as simple as something like DuckDuckGo, right? Where data physically is leaving their computer, but there is a terms of services that says, we're going to be very conscious of your data. Like to some extent, that would be more user-owned AI than, even though it's a closed model, than Llama 405B deployed elsewhere where data is taken advantage of.
So it sounds like the kernel of what you're describing is that the user's rights are being protected or respected by the AI. You go
I
ahead,
want to
Sean.
quickly add, I think there's really interesting problem space right now that can we like disentangle physically owning the model, which means like I put my model on my laptop and exclusively store on my laptop, and anyone accessing the model has to go through internet and then to my laptop as the serving point, versus can I actually deploy the model, my model proprietary, into a third-party node, as some GPUs sit on the cloud, and be able to have a full visibility and control over who is accessing that, and then being able to monetize through that exclusive access control channel. And I think the second part of it is huge opportunity for our community to build solutions that help us to scale up the deployment of my proprietary model to many other external nodes, and then just like scale up the revenue, right?
Okay, so let's stay on the model side, and then we'll go deeper down the stack of what it looks like to decentralize AI. Now, one of the things that we've realized over time about models is that there are very few companies that are actually really good at creating these models. And although you can have these open source fine tunes, somebody creates a waifu model or whatever, something that is that they're particularly excited about, but the really strong, really powerful models that seem to be able to do everything, very few people are able to actually create these, and the expertise is very concentrated. So, what is the role then for the decentralized, all the people who are part of that decentralized cloud to be able to participate in the model creation process? Ethan, why don't you take that, because I know you guys have been very active in model development.
I was just
Ethan.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I think the aspect we focus more is to providing the top models in open source community and also the commercial solutions, and making it easy for the no-code experiences for creators. So they are not participating in the model fine-tuning training stage, because as Haseeb said, it's very complicated to design new model architecture. It's very hard to know the fine-tuning tricks to prevent like overfitting and a few others. So I think in our scenario, we are more the non-developer or the no-code creator aspect. We want people to deploy AI-based applications as easy as like building a mini game on Roblox. So I think I recently always use Roblox as example, because previously, if you want to implement your ideas, maybe a game, maybe a social scenarios, you have to write code, and those kids don't know how to write code. I think nowadays it's starting to become possible for the creators to build AI-powered like image filter, visual novels, role play, and many more without coding at all. That's why we recently open sourced a Shell agent, which is kind of similar to Comfort UI, which is popular image generation workflow. But we are focusing more on the AI-powered application rather than just image generations.
Sure. Alex, you worked at OpenAI. What's your take on that question about the difficulty of creating new models?
Right. So I think one interesting thing to think about, right, is that if 5 years ago you go to college, you want to pursue AI, your career path is effectively you will end up at Google or OpenAI, right? So a person who is crypto anarchist in his heart would not go and pursue this career because they know that they are the most likely path for them is not something that would be aligned with their values, right? So correspondingly, right now, if you go to NeurIPS, you go to ICLR, most of the people are in those big labs. They don't care about crypto. They don't relate to our values. But I'm pretty certain it is about to change, because today only a lazy person is not into AI, right? So there's a large influx of people who will start pursuing that career, who will be graduating in several years, hungry, including those people now that are very aligned, right? And it's important by that point that there is an infrastructure for them, that there is an ability for them to pursue the career in AI, in a decentralized AI that will pay the same way, that will give access to comparable data, to comparable resources, right? So that's, but until we have tier 1 talent in the ecosystem, we're not going to have models like GPT-401 that are in the open.
Makes sense.
Also, yeah, just want to add a little more. I think there are different ways to participate in the model building processes. Let's take image generation model as example. It's very hard for the community to design a stable diffusion for, but we saw that on Civita, this kind of model hosting, image model hosting website, different users have preferences or need for different drawing style. And it's very hard for the base model to contain multiple drawing styles. And so that's why there are thousands and even more models hosted on those websites. And some is for anime fans, some is for more K-pop fans. So I think this kind of model building process is low barrier, easy, because they just need to download software and click a few buttons and uploading a few images. So their aura and it's there. So I think in this sense, to participate in model contribution is possible, but it's very hard for the foundation model.
Makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about economics. And in crypto, of course, when we say economics, we often mean tokenomics. I have a mantra that I think I tweeted this relatively recently, is that tokens are great at incentivizing supply, but they suck at generating demand. And of course, any marketplace needs both supply and demand. So how do you think tokenomics and incentives coming into the AI world can help to create demand for some of the stuff that we're building in the decentralized AI space?
Yeah, I think this is super related to the pain points of the AI development stakeholders, and I'm trying to just give you an idea of what is the model developers are suffering today, right? If you think about a group of you become a model developer, sort of a company, and then start trying to build your own proprietary model, the first thing gonna worry about you is the amount of cash you need to raise upfront to even start prototyping your project, right? We're talking about the amount you need to spend on the data vendor, the compute providers, plus your own sort of a skill sets, right? And I think that really slowed down and set a really strong barrier for many of us who have the AI know-how to participate into the open competitions of developing better model. And that's where I feel like the crypto, the DeFi community has a huge potential to come in to help, right? If you could potentially tokenize your AI access, such as the proprietary data sets and model, and giving out certain amount of the shares to the data providers, to the model, to the compute providers, and also to the investors from the DeFi market who see the upsides of your AI access. Presumably speaking, if you are a well-reputed model developer, right, then you have a very quick channel to quickly put together these resources that you needed to start the prototyping, the piloting phase of your AI model development, right? And I think the biggest challenge we need to solve in order to reach to that stage is to define the fundamental value of this AI access, these models and data sets. And that's many of the projects we are seeing today who claim to tokenize model are lacking. And I think the problem is they don't have an existing well-established business model on the AI ecosystem side. They don't have the deployed model really integrated into application, start monetizing through the applications with the users of the apps. We need to first establish revenue source, business model, community-driven model evaluation leaderboards, and use this to define the fundamental value of the access, and then you can have the secondary market to start invest on the upsides of these assets. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I totally agree the idea that only use incentive to do the supply side rather than the consumer side, because in the crypto space we saw so many products that incentivize user to tap and right. So what's the value this kind of user is creating for? Are they paying for? Probably no. So I think in the AI economy, the interesting part is everyone has a chance to participate into the creation and the contributing aspect, but the hard issue is that how do we decide which supply and which contributor is really providing the real value? Because I think the metrics is very hard to design, because in the AI space, we can design this by the views of the Hugging Face page or the GitHub star, but it's easily can be faked. Or we can design by using the inference, but if user or no one is paying for the inference cost, it doesn't really occur any cost. So I think we as a consumer side, we find a trick is that we don't use the crypto traffic to evaluate the application or the model performance. We did some like Google advertisement using keyword and also SEO. Those are the we call clean traffic to decide which model and which application has more retention rate, more attractions. So we use a small sample of cleaned user behavior to design the final metrics to see which creator is doing better jobs. So it's not going to be started as permissionless, as automatically executed by the protocol. It's more about human operation as a starting point. But I think as the evaluation metrics is more and more mature and anti-CBU can scale easily.
So that's a great point, and Alex, I want you to build off the point that Ethan made, which is that in open source or in building AI models or even doing inference on models, one of the big challenges is attribution of value, which is, okay, somebody added data, somebody added compute, somebody created the architecture, and how much should the value of the final model be attributed to each of these people in the supply chain? In a normal company, you just kind of decide by fiat, well, we're going to pay the data people this much, we're going to pay the engineers this much. How do you do that in a decentralized setting?
I don't know if in the normal companies, the value distribution is fair.
Okay.
Yeah, but so in terms of data contribution, I think generally that's a hard problem. I don't think it is
That's why I asked it.
Solved today at all. When it comes to training the model, I think in terms of compute contribution, that could easily be an auction, right? You know exactly how much compute you need. It's very easy. That is obviously conditional on the fact that we can actually train on a distributed compute clusters. Today we cannot, right? If it has to be on a centralized compute cluster, that will be likely more, agreed upon behind, between the parties. But if we can train on a decentralized cluster, I think that could be fully, like it's a simple smart contract, auction where we find the actual cost of compute. For data, the hard part is that if data travels unencrypted, that is generally a very hard problem, right? The moment data is seen, it's very hard for it not to become effectively public domain, especially in the world of crypto where like people not known to respect many different reasonable laws. But if data is unencrypted, that gets back to the point that Ahmad was making at the previous panel, right? That there is like you can easily have sleeper agents, right? If data goes to the model and let's say it is trained using a trustless environment and you contribute data encrypted, that could have that do svidaniya in it that Ahmad was mentioning, and there is no way to see if it was there. So yeah, data largely is unsolved, I would say.
Just want to add, I don't think we have to solve the data attribution problem because it's such a hard problem. Seems even the neural networks are like stochastic models, right? Every single time you tweak the environment a little bit, it will attribute to different training set data points. So rather, I would solve the problem of how do I record which data sets were used to update to this version of data, this version of the model, and we just need to trace how the model monetize, and you just give back to the data set owners. And the ratios you're giving back has to be, for now, manually negotiated and recorded on smart contract. We just follow that. Everything is transparent and auditable. Yeah.
Oh, I see. What role do you think in this world that you're describing, Sean, is there for law, legal contracts, licenses? Do you think that this decentralized AI world completely obviates all those constructs, or do you think we still, at least at this stage, need to operate within those frameworks in order to solve some of these problems that are very difficult to solve in a fully decentralized setting, like, as you mentioned, data ownership, right? Is the moment I see the data, it's like, well, okay, maybe I paid for it, but everybody else who sees the thing on chain just copies it and never pays the data owner.
No, yeah, I think that the fundamental assumptions we are making here is you have to assume a bunch of things going to be off-chain, right? Model inferences, model serving, and model fine-tuning are all off-chain because you can't do all of these. And data sets should be off-chain as well. So what you exactly need to do is to create a solution that allows this off-chain computation to be auditable and to be trustless, right? And I think the current tangible solutions will you have to use trusted execution environment, TE, to some extent. You have to trust Apple's chip NVIDIA's chip and Intel's chip, right? And then until we reach to the point that FHE is available to use in efficiency that we're happy with, then I think that's kind of an intermediate solution.
So it sounds like basically, if we use a TE, trusted execution environment, that gives us some privacy, that protects the data problem that you were describing. But then, of course, there's the countervailing force, which is that normal consumer hardware doesn't have TEs, right? Like the 4090 or whatever is not going to come with a TE.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But we're talking about you can use the third-party computing nodes that have A100, H100.
So is the vision then that, like, look, at the end of the day, we got to use the GPUs in the data centers, and like the home miner equivalent for this decentralized AI world, it's just like, hey, you kind of got to be this tall to ride.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I also don't imagine users' proprietary model have to be served locally, because that creates a whole problem of availability, right? What if you close your laptop? What if you don't have power? Would my model stop monetizing itself, right? I think the better sense is you deploy multiple copies of model over the cloud where it has TE,
Sure.
and you start providing the proof of the verification results of every single action's been done there. You have to make certain assumptions about trust with the providers.
Alex, what's your take on this vision?
I think in the short term, TEs is the most viable solution, right? And naturally,
Sorry, let's pause real quick. How many people know what a TE is? Can you raise your hand? Okay, can you just explain what a TE is?
So modern processors and modern graphic processing units, they have what is called a trustless environment, which is effectively it's like a vault within the device that internally has a private key, and that key is only known to the manufacturer. So if it's Intel SGX, only Intel knows the key. If it's NVIDIA H100, only NVIDIA knows the key. And everything that happens with that vault is completely impossible to spy upon, right? And then, effectively, what you do is that you do some computation within that vault, and then you sign using that private key. And the public key is known to everybody, right? And then everyone outside can verify that the computation was done within the that private environment, right? And that allows you to, like the biggest use case would be doing anything with private data, right? You encrypt private data using the public key that is known to everybody. You know that it can be only decrypted in the trustless environment, and then you know that only the like there are a lot of various assertions you can make, right? So in this case, we can train the whole models inside trustless environments. We can process user data inside trustless environment, and NVIDIA at this point is like their reputation is worth more than what is there to lose, right? So it's short term, that's an outstanding solution. Long term, suboptimal.
Okay, so the decentralized AI vision is NVIDIA GPUs in data centers, and we trust NVIDIA. Is that the vision?
You have to make certain assumptions before everything mature, right? I mean, like I'm a big fan of FHE. I'm a big fan of zero knowledge proving, but you have to make it usable today. And before that, we need to build something, right? I mean, we're not going to stop doing.
I'm not disagreeing, but I'm issuing the challenge. And so what do you say then to the decentralized GPU networks, right? So like most of these, if you look at Akash or Render or IONET, most of the inventory that they have is not GPUs and high-end GPUs in data centers. Most of it is like homebrew GPU type stuff. What's your take?
I think you just have to give up privacy in that sense. I mean, to be honest, right? Because user of these compute powers are facing the spectrum of privacy, protection versus price. And if you go for a GPU marketplace, oftentimes you are looking at price as one of the major factors, right? Yeah.
Ethan, how do you think from the consumer side, right? You guys are focused more on a consumer application.
Yeah.
How does privacy play in? How much does it matter, and how much is it, well, kind of most people at this point, I mean, they're giving their data to OpenAI, what do they care what somebody sees it?
I think people are just afraid of OpenAI using their data, but to be honest, unless the user is talking to the AI about his password, his private key, what's the data it's used for? Because I think public data on Google, like Wikipedia, like novel, books, those are excellent training material. But personal data is just my personal opinion, I feel like it's not that useful for training a better universal models. And user always opt for cheaper solutions. They want to watch advertisement rather than paying $5 a month. So they are willing to give up the data in most of the scenario because it's not about the healthcare tax, those kind of very personal money-related and health-related issues. It's just chatting with AI agents about the random stuff. So I think nowadays user is still looking for better and cheaper product rather than ready for paying for privacy.
Fair enough. Okay, we've got a little bit of time, so I want to make sure we have some chance to take questions. Does anybody have questions for any of the panelists? Yeah, go ahead. Try to project.
Right, so it seems for the first time maybe crypto people and governments agree on one thing, and that's the centralization of AI resources is worrying. Governments don't like crypto tokens. Is there any way we can create this decentralized AI tech stack without using tokens?
I think so. I mean, I'm just trying to correct your question. I think what government is trying to do is still maintain the centralization paradigm, but align with the government's interests, right? In terms of making sure the government has the visibility, the control on certain things over the whole life cycle of AI development, starting from user privacy, for example. And to answer your question about the token, I think the token economics and decentralizations are two things that are not super overlap with each other. The token, as I see, creating new economic incentives, right? If you can connect the DeFi ecosystem with the AI ecosystem, what's the good thing about that is the developers of AI suddenly has much easier hot money that they can quickly prototype their model development process, with also the fact that the DeFi community can find new vehicles to invest into the AI upsides, which they are super excited about already. And I think that's a nice thing. Regarding decentralizations, honestly speaking, I think on the physical decentralizations, there's a lot about private computing that we already touched on. On the governance side is like how you can make a model become a multi-party sharing sort of access rather than fully controlled by the model developers or the application builders, right? So you can make the whole development process more open and more like a decentralized in that sense.
Let's take one more question. Let's go that one right there. No, yeah, you in the blue shirt. Yeah.
I would like to pick Ethan's brain on how do we, accurately predict the compute demand for a specific application. Is there any, proven approaches or any approaches that you're using? I mean, when you deploy app on top of a GPU compute, right? And what are the general approaches?
So the question is about how to protect the GPU.
How to predict the GPU compute usage? Yeah.
Oh, I see. I think
what are the popular approaches? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the GPU renting, there are a few ways. The first, of course, buy H100 and rent the rack, pay for the electric bills. And another one is find the traditional cloud services like AWS and reserve the GPU by hour or by month. And there are some new solutions like Replicate, which I really like. It's basically shared GPU instance, and it's just gonna do hot loading, and also it's kind of costs serverless GPU, even though there are some issues. But this, you don't have to prepay anything. You only have bills whenever the inference is happened, and you pay for the inference time. So I think I predict that there are going to be more and more serverless GPU, which there are issues to solve, but it's going to be very interesting for early startup and early product.
Okay, that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you to the three of you for a great panel.
Thank you.